All right, we got audio working.
Get it.
And we're on.
All right.
Welcome, everybody.
Yay.
Okay. Yep. Okay, great. So, welcome to the channel. My name is Bob, and I have our wonderful cast from the Descent into Avernus group here. I'm going to just do some quick introductions. I'm going to go on from our screen, top to bottom. We've got Nate, who played Weir, our halfling bard. Stefano, who played Lucius, our very variant human cleric. We have Tim, who played Hex, our tiefling warlock. Dasha, who played Eroviel, the half-elf ranger. John, who played everybody's favorite character. Kolgath, who is a dwarf paladin. We have Andrew, who played Dobby, a gnome wizard. And Michelle played Pete, the wood elf rogue. And finally, last but not least, Christian, who played Caddis, the high elf druid, who is really no longer a high elf, and we'll talk all about that very, very soon. Okay. So I talked to all of you off camera about this review that we're going to be doing, or this recap. Kind of wanted to have this be an open discussion, a chance for us to kind of put a close on the end of a fantastic campaign. And I think first off, I'd just say thank you for being not only amazing players, but also dealing with streaming and doing all this stuff for me, because I had the bright idea of starting a YouTube channel, and I want to thank you all for that. So thank you for your patience, and thanks for being great players.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you,
Bob.
It's a pleasure.
I was terrible, I'm sure.
So
So,
wonderful.
was I? I hope so. I thought
Oh,
we had a
yes.
good time.
We all lived.
Yeah, which is actually quite surprising. I talked to a few of you at work. I was saying that I don't really know how all of you survived that finale. It was, I really don't. I mean, the amount of extremely epic level creatures that were in that battle, I would have thought that someone would have died. Let's you know what? Why don't we talk about the finale first? I know I had different notes for all of you, but let's do the finale first because we're on it. So the finale was, and again, if anyone has not watched our Descent to Avernus finale, it is on the channel. I'll link it in the description after the video is done. You can take a look at it. It was just if you have a short 7.5 hours to spare, you could totally, on a lunch break or something, finish it up. Yeah. Now I think if in a non-COVID world where we had to literally meet and play, and we weren't trying to stream it and finish a campaign with schedules getting hectic in the fall, I think the ideal situation would have been to do up until getting the sword would have been session, the second to last session, and then the finale would have been post sword final battle sort of deal. But we combined them into two episodes into one big episode, and it was a lot of fun. I also felt like it didn't even go that slow. It actually felt like it ran pretty quick, but I had a lot of stuff going on, so I feel like I was a little I'm not a good judge of the time because I had so much stuff to manage. But what did you all think of the finale and the pacing? And
Oh, we moved. We moved quick.
Yeah, it felt quick.
Even
Yeah.
with 7 hours, it really, it did fly by.
Yeah, it was almost like battle after battle after battle, almost nonstop.
yeah, were you
With increasing
worried?
scales.
Yeah, exactly. Were you worried at all that you would have not had a rest at all the entire campaign? Because I know that people were like, "Are we rested after the third to last, second to last?"
spells.
Yeah, when you
Good.
rested on the finale, I was disappointed that I didn't use more spells before that.
Yeah, same.
I was out of spells.
Yeah, I had no charges on my staff left. I had nothing. Warlock
Yeah.
with
See-
4 spell slots to begin with, so
I
This is life.
hoarded
Yeah.
my spell slots.
Oh, they didn't help.
I was hoarding decently, but I was very nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could say one thing that was very challenging about running a campaign, which I've never done a campaign for 8 players before, is trying to challenge all of you and make sure that your resources do feel limited. It was very interesting seeing what you could go up against at different levels. My preconceived ideas about what is challenging for a group were blown away. Like it was when you were level 7, I think it was, when you beat the Balor in the Mordenkainen's quest. I was like, what is going on right now? How did you? It wasn't even like that hard. Like, I mean, I think Dasha almost died, and so did Tim. I think both
Yeah.
of you like
Yeah,
could
it
have
was
very easily died.
Really close.
It was not because it was hard. We just had kind of poor
I
placement.
think the worst part of that fight was when it died. It just blew up on everybody.
Yeah.
Loaded.
That's splash damage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bob, can I ask you a question that we're getting outside of game here?
sure.
What was the Balor's challenge rating, and what were the challenge ratings of the beasts of Zariel, Bell?
Well, that's a good point. So the Balor that you faced earlier on in the campaign, a Balor is challenge rating 20, which everybody that's DM'd before knows the challenge rating is the system for challenge ratings is so wrong. It's not even funny. But the fact that 8 7th level characters were able to beat a Balor is kind of silly. That should not really happen. I mean, I also did not want to add anything to the Balor because he was supposed to be like a prisoner and he could have been like souped up. I could have made him have more, and I probably would have if the scenario in the game was different. But since it was supposed to be like a Balor that was trapped and kind of weakened to begin with, I didn't want to add anything to him. In fact, I thought about taking away hit points, but once the combat started, I realized that he was going to die very quickly.
We appreciate that.
Going back to the finale question, though, the challenge ratings of all the creatures, I don't have the book. Actually, the book is on a bookshelf, but I don't have the book in front of me. But Zariel, I believe, is challenge rating 26. Yunagu is challenge rating 24, 25. You played with Bell. Bell was challenge rating 23. Gargoth the Pit Fiend is challenge rating 20, I believe. I don't think there was any
What about Max?
big creature under 20. Max was challenge rating 6, so he was. Yeah.
Were there
But he
supposed
is
to be that many high level
cagey.
challenge rating monsters there?
It's a good question, Andrew, and that's a question I will answer in a little bit. I'm going to get back to my questions though, because I have an order for this. I think yes, I'm like Chris Harrison from The
Back on
Bachelor. I
schedule.
do have questions planned here.
That's where you put the commercial
Right.
break. You know, if we ever had one.
I love
Yeah,
Star-
we'll coming up after this. But in terms of the finale, there were a couple things that here's what happened ultimately. Zariel gets redeemed, which I thought was not going to happen once the battle started. I really thought that the group was going to kill her, especially because of some of the actions of characters like Kolgath, who really seemingly wanted her dead. I thought she was going to die because you all were ganging up on her, and then I knew Belle was going to turn on her, so I felt like she was going to die. But you redeemed her, and that was pretty good. I was kind of taken back by that. El Terrell was freed. There were a couple of options that you could have freed her from. I don't know if anybody watched my Descent into Avernus DM prep for the finale. It's another hour and a half. If you have on your lunch break, you could totally just zoom through it. But I really thought that you would try to break the chains with the sword. And I was going to, unless you did something very clever, I would have probably made that very hard to do because Zariel would probably have those chains guarded by her armies like they were trying to do when the demons were fighting them at the beginning of the series. So I thought that would be hard to do. If you had something creative, I would have. But I had a backup plan to kind of speed up the process. So Tiamat came and broke the chain. So Archon channeled an aspect of Tiamat, and she destroyed those chains binding Avernus, or El Terrell to Avernus. Then big player moments here at the end. I think the most shocking one would probably be Hex. So let's talk about Hex. Tim, that's your character.
Yes.
What happened to Hex at the end of this?
You see, I get to sit on my lofty new throne in the first layer of Avernus. Pretty proud of myself for that one.
So was that something you had in mind at the beginning of the campaign? Is it something you thought was a possibility for your character?
No, at the start, it's just like, hey Bob, I got this patron that is like essentially in the 7th layer of hell, and I'm sure that'll pull some strings. But I didn't plan on getting my own level. That's a nice perk of the job, I guess.
Yeah. When you told me that you were, there was some comments you made like early on in the campaign about like how you basically wanted to, I don't know, you would do whatever your patron said. You were, I think all warlocks are willing to help their patron, obviously, but I think that the tying in Levistus, who was his patron, to the storyline was very easy because there's always talk about these devil, lords that are basically always plotting and backstabbing each other. So I thought, why would I not try to have Levistus rule hell by proxy? And that's basically his idea. Now, Hex probably thinks that, Levistus just loves him unconditionally and, has great faith in him. But ultimately, he wants Hex there so that he can kind of meddle in 2 layers as opposed to 1.
Tentative position for sure.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as long as you and him work together, I mean, he's fine to keep this going. So, for the time being, in our reality, Hex is the ruler of Avernus.
Nice.
Now, did anybody pick up that Hex had a huge boost in power while we were playing?
Yeah, people definitely knew.
Oh yeah.
Totally out
Yeah,
over
his
my head.
Eldritch Blasts were just chunking. So
Yeah, really?
something was up.
4 Eldritch Blast? You don't do that at level 12? Oh, I'm sorry.
I wish.
I think they were
Like, I
doing
don't-
a lot more damage than usual too.
Yeah.
Usually he only does like
Yeah.
3 damage.
He was
He also had infinite health. It felt like.
Yeah. I think it was up to like I'll double check. It was like 197 by the end of it. It was ridiculous.
and with my offhand weapon for 1 damage.
Yeah, so basically,
That's the Hex I know.
yeah. Basically, once you went into the scab, that's when he was visited by Levistus before you guys left Bell's Forge. And his gift, if he were to succeed and follow Levistus's orders, he would gain a huge power boost. So we said that he would be secretly level 20, getting that boon. So I had him a couple, like, what was it, a week, 2 weeks before, right?
Yeah,
Right,
2 weeks.
2 weeks before. I had you give me the character sheet so I could make sure it wouldn't screw over anything in the game, because 20th level characters can do that. And then we went for it. And I told you could keep it a secret or you could make it as open as you wanted. But, if you were to do anything that would go against Levistus, then I would take that power away. And that would be your penalty. So, but do you like the ending for Hex? Did everything go as you would have thought?
Better than I expected. I'll tell you what. That was just
All right.
fantastic.
All right, good. So speaking of really overpowered characters, let's go to our next character here. Weir. Just kidding.
Oh,
Lucius.
God, man.
Ouch.
That's
Um,
so brutal.
I was
From
"Man,
the
I missed
beginning,
that
this
one
was
too?"
Would
yeah.
you like some ointment? With
I
that
was mentally sitting out, and that's how I got brought back in. Oh, that was so brutal.
Speaking of
This is where
overpowered
backing up
characters,
everyone.
Lucius from the very, very beginning. I think even at our session 0, the first game, I think Stefano said that he told everyone that his character was like from another realm, basically another dimension, and it was kind of open. I mean, you want to tell them a little about your idea from the beginning, what it would look like when you were first thinking about it?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, I eventually found out from Mordenkainen that Lucius is like from another universe. So it's kind of like this multiverse thing, kind of like they do in Marvel. So I have these gods that are we essentially just call them the overseers. And I was a level 20, basically like demigod. And I've been sent on these missions. And I was sent on this mission to Elturel to try to find out a disturbance that was going on there. And as soon as I entered Elturel, for some reason, the link between my gods was severed. And I went from level 20 character to a level 1 character at that first session because I couldn't speak to my gods anymore, and all of my powers were essentially cut off at the beginning of that session.
Did you lose your memory as well?
No. Like I don't know if you guys remember, I tried to cast Destructive Wave in the first battle, and then it just wasn't working. Like all of my powers just weren't working, and it was annoying. So Lucius essentially had to rely on the rest of you to accomplish his goal throughout the campaign.
In particular, the powerful Weir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially a god in the game.
Yeah. It was a really cool design for a character. I hadn't thought about like ever making a character like that. So when you brought it to me, I was like, we got to do something special with it. And so in the finale, when you encountered Zariel, which was your ultimate target, you also jumped up to level 20. And in my original idea, I actually thought that as the game went along, I realized that there was some fracturing between the characters. Definitely Weir could not put up with Lucius and Kolgath from time to time. So I thought that there might be some infighting there, but I also really thought that I had Stefano supposed to kill Zariel, and I had Tim essentially have to protect Zariel or redeem her. So I thought that those two might battle, duke it out. The two 20th level characters might duke it out at some point, but
Oh no!
But
good.
it didn't have to go that way because I think everyone kind of unified at the end, which was really nice to see.
Everyone, I'm sorry. I'm the one who's getting attacked by my whole party. Well, we can come back to that, but everyone got together?
Oh, I've got something very special. I've got something very special for Kolgath.
One of the things I wanted to mention was basically my original intent for that entire finale. First, my intent was to take the sword, and the sword rejected me, so that put a wrench in my plans. But then I was going to basically attack Zariel because I knew that Zariel was my target, but I didn't know that we would redeem Zariel in the middle of the battle. I thought the battle would be over, and then when we had a chance to redeem her, I was literally planning to stab Zariel in the chest and be like, mission accomplished, and then call on my gods to return me back to the plane of existence that I'm from.
So what made you change your mind so drastically?
So I think throughout the campaign, one of the things that Lucius enjoyed a lot was traveling with Lulu. And I think in mid-battle, just seeing like a lot of his allies nearly dead on the floor and looking at Zariel being like a changed heavenly being and just looking at Lulu, that's when I decided to make that decision to kind of just trust in my allies and cast Mass Heal. And I had no idea that I would just drop to the ground and lose my powers at that point. So
yeah,
was,
you went against your gods there. So
it was like kind of like a really cool ending for Lucius that I never knew that I could have. Like I got the good ending that I never knew that existed for me. So that was pretty
all right.
special.
So we got 2 for 2 so far. As the dungeon master, I'm keeping score. 2 for 2. Happy customers. Got it. All right. Now let's talk about some unhappy customers. Kolgath.
Hello.
Oh, no.
You know, I gotta be honest with you. Everybody is giving him flack for his decisions at the end there, but I gotta tell you, in storytelling terms, it was like the perfect thing to have in a finale. Some sort of betrayal, some sort of like backstabbing, and all in all, doing that for the actual betterment of the group. You know, everybody hated you at the end, except for maybe
I
Hex.
did.
But
I did.
all right, Dobby didn't. But
Dobby had my back.
yeah.
I was definitely very ambivalent.
Okay, so actually, a lot of people were not so mad at you as I think. Here, you got half the group here. I think there was.
Oh, I was
Basically,
very mad
okay.
at you.
A vocal majority.
Yeah. So the big thing with Kolgath was that you turned on the group. The group was pretty much, I think, set on trying to redeem Zariel at some point, and then you teamed up with Gargoth. What I thought was going to be, and if you in my DM prep, I said this is definitely going to happen. I'm going to have you face off with Gargoth and duke it out because you would be, you guys were with each other for so long. It only makes sense that one of you kills the other. But when you told Gargoth that you would help him, like I was so convinced by your performance, I didn't even think to like make you say, "Wait, is this the truth?" Are you? Because you have to make a bluff check or a deception check. Then, like, I was so caught off guard by it that I was like, "Oh, well, then, yeah, Gargoth's gonna take that, like for sure."
When did this conversation happen? I think I missed something.
So I
What did you miss?
If I remember. And
When did Kolgath's conversation with Gargoth and this alliance happen?
Oh, mid battle, mid
Literally in the middle
battle.
of everything going
Yeah.
on.
I
Yeah.
think that was like the first turn.
Right after the fireball, he sent Colgate.
Yeah, because the first thing I knew, I hasted him forwards to attack Gargoth, and then the next thing I know,
Yeah,
they're
and then
fighting
he's coming right
next to
back at
each other.
us.
Mhm. Yeah.
Not at
Now,
us,
to
just
be
at
fair,
Zariel.
Golgath did not attack
Yeah,
the group. He only
No.
attacked Zariel.
that's why I stuck with him.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
All right, good.
I will say Kolgath himself got a lot of confidence when he shook off that fireball as easily as he did.
That's true. Actually, you took a fireball like to the chest.
With
Very
zero damage.
Yeah.
Took a fireball because of shield mastery. Yeah, wonderful rolls. I think just actually before haste. So Gargoth shot a fireball at me. I don't know, Bob, was that a level 3 fireball or an upcast fireball?
It was probably just a level 3. A lot of the monster stats don't give you like all their spell slots. They'll just give you like, a handful of them. So and he's not a spellcaster, so he's like a demon or devil lord. So they just say he can cast this many spells. I guess I could have upcasted something, replace it with a spell yet higher, but I wasn't thinking that much during that moment because we'll talk about what it was like to run that in a second. But it was unbelievably chaotic here at my house. Like if like a Diana came down one time, I think, and just looked at me and then like didn't even say anything, just went right back upstairs. Like had no idea what was going on. I had papers covering everywhere. I feel like I was like Neil Peart with the drum set, like literally stuff everywhere around me.
Great reference.
To reference, yeah. Like there's just stuff everywhere. I had other furniture brought in so I could put stuff on it. It was just crazy. But anyway, so Kolgath, even though you were disliked by half the group after the finale, what do you think about his ending?
Well, I actually, to be honest, personally, John, myself, I wasn't sure where Kolgath was going to go coming into the final battle. Things definitely changed throughout the battle that made me kind of get to where I was. Kolgath's entire motive, operandi from pretty early on is about gaining power and control. So I kind of saw an outlet to kind of gain some control. There was a chance that I was going to team up with Gargoth and kill Zariel and try to be his second lieutenant.
So wait, so you were kind of playing both sides here.
I played probably 3 sides at least.
Okay.
The groups, Gargoth's and my own and Zariel's, at least 3 sides.
Bell's, because Bell was in charge of Gargoth. So Bell's team, Zariel's team, and the group.
I guess I never wanted to work under Bell. Personality-wise, he just rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, I tried to make him sound like and act like a psychopath, so I think that was probably a good idea not to work with him. All right, so it's a 3 for 3 is what I'm hearing here. Okay, good. Let's talk to Weir next. Weir.
Hey.
So Weir is interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of the moments that Weir shined in were the social situations, and I was certain that Weir was going to be the one to talk Zariel down. In my prep, because you have the best perception or persuasion in the group, you typically do the talking when there's some sort of negotiation to be done. What happened? Why didn't you try to talk her out of it?
So Weir's story was kind of a tragedy overall. Like it felt like the story kind of began like the great adventure with a bunch of friends, and I had no idea what to expect. And I kind of played Weir almost like I would play like a first fantasy character in a video game, where it's like make all the right decisions, be good, not a lot of nuance as my first character. And by the end, I felt like the group had scattered and like broken apart, and I didn't really have any desire to really help any person in the group as much as just help like what I thought I should do, and kind of like wanted to, I guess, do good overall. And so I kind of thought, all right, I'll try and redeem Zariel. So I felt like I thought I was on Hex's side. I guess I was on Cadis's side. But I really hated Max. And when he attacked me, I just became dead set on killing him because I thought he gave nothing good to any world, even Avernus. And so
you're probably right.
I was kind of almost on like a Punisher tip by the end of the campaign. I was feeling just like
you were a 3-foot tall Punisher.
Yeah, I don't know if that's how I acted, but that's kind of how I felt. Weird kind of developed.
No, I
I
actually
was down to kill Max.
I actually think that you're right. I think that was the tone of the campaign was a bunch of like, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed adventurers going out and then by the end just a bunch of cynical, like miserable people. And
True.
I'm still in a great mood. Don't worry.
right, exactly.
I
But
got a
you're
good
you're
epilogue,
you're
but, like-
diabolical. So that's kind of what that's what you were going for. Yeah. And I actually really love that cuz I going into those last like couple of sessions, I was already like, this is a fractured group. Like I said, there's going to be infighting, and in the finale, I could totally see backstabbing happen, and didn't go the way I thought it would be. I thought there would be different sides formed, but that's the fun part about D&D. You never know, even the DM.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
thought
so-
the biggest heartbreak was Kolgath and Weir were tight at the beginning,
They were tight.
and he just went on such a. As the campaign grew, we grew
Mhm.
farther apart.
Yeah.
That was a heartbreaker.
Once I
Yeah.
got the shield, you
It
were
was the
very
shield.
That shield was what
The
really
shield.
sort of
I'm gonna
drove.
whisper that in my sleep for the rest of my life as Weir.
No, not the shield. No,
When
no.
we're ready to do it, I want to have an out of game conversation about the shield. When we're ready, John has some comments.
It's
Hey,
funny how the shield was supposed to corrupt, right? The shield was supposed to corrupt, and boy, did it work. Really, really worked.
So,
Okay, so go ahead.
Real quick, as you were
Yeah.
saying, like one of the things that was so cool about this campaign, because in the previous campaign, Tomb of Annihilation, like all of the characters were like, "Yeah, let's fight the Archlich. We're gonna solve this problem." But in this campaign, like it seemed like everybody was just out for themselves, and I never saw that happening in like a D&D game. It just seemed so chaotic, and it was
Mhm.
awesome. It was really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and all the other adventures that I've read or ran, the goal is kind of obvious from the beginning, and there's a bad guy, and it's like, famous bad guys. A Sararak from Tomb is like classic D&D villain, and almost kind of boring in comparison to Zariel, who's like, you could redeem her or not. She could end up kill you. Can make a deal with her. Like there was so many different ways the campaign could have ended, and I'm really happy with the way that ours did. But yeah, it gave a lot of different angles to come at the finale with. All right, so let's
Just
go
one
to.
last thing.
Oh yeah, go
For
ahead. Weir.
anyone watching this, everyone who played in this campaign, DM and character alike, super nice people. Not in D&D. Super self-driven people in D&D. I love it.
That's true. That's true. There are a lot of really nice people here, and you're a bunch of jerks in D&D. It's all right. I blame
love it.
Avernus for this. All right. So even though it was a tragic ending, I think it was a fitting ending for Weir. That seems about right. Let's go to Eroviel. Eroviel, you had a very interesting path here because I think you said Roviel's a very good-natured character, right, Dasha? Am I right from the beginning?
Yeah.
But you ended up making deals with devils. You lost your soul, perhaps forever, and are pretty much a evil character at this point by the end. What was that like for
That's true.
Eroviel?
It was very jarring for me as a player to see my character sort of start to snowball. I think for Roviel, her initial motivations going into this were very good. Like she wanted to save Elturel, she wanted to help her friends, and I think ultimately that's what got her in trouble because when they got into Avernus and she realized oh, I need to make a deal with the devil to help my friends survive this journey through Avernus. She basically, without realizing how much she was sacrificed herself for her friends. I think if she had been a little bit more selfish, she maybe would have been like, screw it, I'm not giving up my soul for this. We can travel a few more days, maybe we'll lose someone. But I think her selflessness in the end, thinking back on it, is what kind of got her in trouble. And once she made that initial deal with Max, that door was kind of open, and he kept coming back and offering more help, and she was reluctant at first, but then she took another assistance from him, another help, and started to owe him a favor. And then, as we all know, eventually she basically threw up her soul into a soul coin, and that was downhill from there.
Yeah, it's funny. I think maybe the good. I don't know. In the book, it talks about the people who would make deals with devils, typically the bad people in general. But I almost think it's easier for a good person to try to make a deal because they are willing to do whatever it takes to help help their friends or help others. So I don't know. It ended up I didn't know who would take Max's deal at the beginning. By the way, one thing I will talk more about some things that you probably didn't know about the campaign in a little bit, but Max is not in this story. Max was my own creation. Max is
he
not
was
a
such
character.
a good NPC.
Yeah,
Wow.
thank you.
He was a brilliant
Well
NPC.
done.
Oh, way to
my
go.
goodness.
Thank you.
Most memorable, hands down. No.
Oh, easy.
okay.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I
I thought he was
agree.
definitely in it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
I appreciate it. Yeah, Max was my own creation. Max was not in the campaign book, but I felt like you had Lulu on the good side as like an NPC to guide you, and you needed like someone like I was just thinking Lulu's like the good angel on your shoulder. You needed a bad angel as well, and so I felt like they needed a character like Max, and there wasn't one. So I just said, screw it. I'm gonna pick one of my favorite types of devils, which is the chain devil. I think they're so cool aesthetically. And I said, we're going to have a chain devil be a recurring NPC. So I didn't know who was going to take his deal. I did not think it was going to be Dasha, though. I can tell you that for sure.
I think Arovia was definitely traumatized by that encounter because I don't think she realized making the deal that she'd have to sign her name on like a person that was like, in the hold of this devil and having to literally like sign her name into someone's flesh, I think traumatized her. But I think after a certain point, to kind of show like where she was emotionally, I think both with like hell weighing down on her and also I think she just became numb to it all because she had to keep going. In my mind, that's how I was picturing it, and that's what made it easier for her to kind of like keep going down that hill to like evil without realizing maybe how far gone
deep.
she was.
That's deep right there. Yeah, it was definitely a snowball effect, and it got worse and worse and worse. We're just talking about the soul coin. Yeah, so the soul coin, your soul is lost now in hell. Do you know anyone that might be able to help you find it?
I know Mr. Hex. might be. If you give me another infernal GPS, maybe.
I'm telling you, everybody. I think one day in the future, I don't know when, but we need to have like the long-awaited sequel where we can go back in and find the soul coin, and
Let's do it.
we need to do that.
Yeah,
I think we need to do that.
I think Pete expressed their willingness to assist in this endeavor. So thank you, Pete, for I think at the very end help was offered to Iroviel, and
let's do that. Let's talk to Pete for a second. So Pete.
Oh God.
Pete was Pete was like one of the most wild card characters, I think, in the whole group. I think sometimes Pete was like super violent, and the way maybe it's because of the way you describe everything, Michelle. You were so descriptive throughout the entire campaign, and then other times like the sweetest, nicest person. That seems to be a trend as well in this group. But at the end there, I think I always saw from the beginning, right, the Pete and Erovial connection. I did see that even from the Elf Song Tavern, the first real encounter. But I had no idea that there was more to this. How did the Dungeon Master not know?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking, and we're sorry we didn't tell you. I think I think that from the beginning, I always envisioned Pete as like a very innocent, naive, hope-driven character, like really an external embodiment of like hope as a trait. And so Pete, having come from such a hopeless background, like being abandoned in the woods and then being found by a group of like kids who live on the street, Pete had a very tumultuous upbringing. But then like found comfort in the sense of like family and belonging. So then Pete, having joined this band of heroes now, is so excited about finding like a new group who actually aligns with their chaotic good kind of core. And so then magically this beautiful, strong warrior appears who is also good in alignment and who is just everything in an elfin maiden that Pete could ever have imagined. And so Pete definitely had a crush on Iroviel from like moment one. And
wow.
So yes, there was a night, I think we were having a long rest, and then Pete and Irovio were on the same like watch shift because
Yes,
we
I
both
remember this.
needed
Yeah,
4 hours. Yeah, we both needed 4 hours of meditation, and everyone else needed 8 hours of sleep. So then we had the same shift, and that's the moment when the sparks first flew.
Wow.
And if I recall correctly, at the end of that shift, the person who was next was Caddis. And so Caddis.
And he's oblivious.
Caddis knew.
Well,
Caddis knew.
yeah, Caddis came up before our shift was completely over. I don't know. I guess we got caught up in our communal. And then Caddis knew that was happening from that point on. So every so often when we had a rest, Pete and Irovio would be like, ooh, we're going to go over there. And then Caddis would be like, okay.
So maybe I'm just the oblivious one. How did I not know this? That's really more question for me probably. But
all right, Daphne, Fred and I will go check upstairs, and Velma, Scooby, and Shaggy, you go check the basement, and don't come upstairs for sure.
Exactly. There was a point when we had to like cross something. I don't remember what it was exactly, but at that point Caddis turned into a giant eagle, and like right away Pete was like, Irovio and I are gonna be on Caddis.
Okay.
So yes, every so often that would pop up, and anytime Pete saw an opportunity to be alone with Irovio, yes, Pete would jump for it. So that was definitely a fun aspect of the character that I had.
That's cool. You know, and I not you didn't do anything wrong. I never really, maybe this is my style as a DM. I don't know. I just don't ever think about like adding romance into the game. I don't know. It's just, I'm always so focused on the adventure, like whatever's going on, and I just kind of let that go. Maybe I should try to highlight that more, maybe in some way.
Well, Bob, for what it's worth, I'm in love with your DMing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
There you
I
go.
second that.
Thank you. Well, and last but not least, Pete, how did it feel to be the person to make not only the final attack in the game, but also the person who made the final roll of the game?
Oh man, I forgot that was
You were the
me.
final roller attacker, and you killed Belle.
Wow. Okay. It's like it's
How'd that
happening
feel?
all over again. Well, I will say that Pete, as a very, humble, quiet elf who, again, is very naive and innocent, definitely did not expect this kind of outcome, nor did the player in question. And so I think that Pete, as a character, would probably, honestly, just be like starstruck by themselves. Just like, did I really do that? And
you did kill a demon. I keep saying demon. I feel like demon is the word I want, but devil, an archdevil. So that's pretty impressive to put on a resume.
Yes,
almost as good as we are killing Chain Devil. That's right up there, the same exact.
So Pete was happy to have done something good. And Pete was happy to have stuck to their guns and not gone over to the selfish, questionable side, and just going for number one all the time.
There you go. So I'm hearing 6 out of 6 so far. Happy customers. Let's go to Caddis. So Caddis, Christian, I know you've talked to me about this a few times. You were always like, I just am figuring this whole game out. This was like such a different experience gaming wise for you. And all 6 out of the 8 of us, by the way, were new players. But Christian, I felt like throughout the campaign, you were like, am I doing this right? Is this the right way to, and I'm always like, yeah, like there's no right or wrong way. Like you're doing the right thing. And at the end, I think Caddis never shined brighter than the finale there. I thought Colgath or somebody else would be getting the sword. And you were like, no, let me do this.
I got this.
What made you want the sword?
I don't know. It seemed like that last session, the game kind of clicked for me a little bit. It's sort of just how you really can almost do anything. It's just give it a shot. It's worth just saying, "Hey, I'm gonna take the sword." I didn't think that would actually work, and there I was. I grabbed it. So I think it was that what was that one battle right before the final we were facing? I forget its name.
Belle?
No, Unagi?
That hyena demon.
Yeah.
Inagi.
Yunagu.
Yeah, when we were fighting that guy, and then I had the Zariel kind of vision,
Hmm.
sort of spirit sort of showed up, and it asked me if I would, would I would I sacrifice myself for the team, for the group? And I said,
Yeah.
yeah. I thought that was sort of the key
The
or the
cue.
hint that I should be taking the sword. I thought that's what it meant.
Yeah,
said
Zariel
that.
does. That's in the book. I mean, Zariel comes and asks the question to the group, and if you were to respond, yes, I would, you get the blessing and all that stuff. And I think sometimes there's a weird thing with like mechanics, and like people don't know if something is a mechanic or not. Something because a lot of times there's just like something that's way too obscure and hidden. They will never find out. Like I'm really happy that Pete found that scimitar, that +2 way to make your scimitar. I forget which god it was now, Helm or Torm. You can like bless it in the cemetery. I was like, nobody's gonna find that because you have to like investigate some broken glass on the floor, and it's just so like you could totally just like gloss over it. And some of those things, I don't know if you're gonna find them or not, I don't know if you're gonna respond to it or not. But she was talking, and you were the only one that spoke up and said, "Yeah, I would do that." I think she came to you first because you were by the statue.
Yeah,
You
I
were
think
praying
I
to her.
kneeled. Instead of attacking
Yeah.
my final turn, I think I just dropped and
Yeah,
prayed and
yeah.
hope for the best.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
almost seemed like it just worked out really perfectly, and you took the sword. I know Kolgath wanted it. I saw John's face. He was like, "I'm a paladin. I want the sword."
It's shiny.
Yeah, that's actually what I was just writing. If we have a second, I have a question about that, but I want to let Caddis finish.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So John wanted this sword, but the way you described it, Kolgath was like really hesitant. It would have totally changed Kolgath's alignment, right?
Yeah, the book says that basically you're no longer yourself.
Yeah, and you said that you're no longer yourself, and that's when Kolgath kind of was like, well, fuck, Kolgath loves Kolgath. Why Kolgath doesn't want to
Right.
change? Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want the sword anymore. Like, Kolgath loves Kolgath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that point, I actually agree with you 100%. Like Kolgath would have been a little too selfish to take it. The idea of it, so the sword can choose not to attune to somebody, basically can reject them. And the only person that I was definitely going to reject would have been, the only people that I definitely would have rejected was Stefano, because your intention was to kill Zariel. Dasha, because you didn't have a soul. And Tim, because you plan to be the ruler of Avernus. So the three of you, I said absolutely out of the question, could not take it. But anybody else, I said a fair game, and I thought that it was going to be Kolgath, but did not see Caddis doing it. It was really, really.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, I think it was
Really
when you
nice.
said that, when you described the sword and it said that the person would be no more. I thought that was your hint that, okay, whoever grabs the sword is dead or is going to die. And I kind of accepted it at that point. Once I agreed with the spirit, I figured that's where you were going with it. I thought
That's
that was
the
like,
noblest
okay,
thing I've ever heard.
someone has to sacrifice themselves. I guess this is what it means.
It
Fucking
kind of did.
Christ.
That's why I grabbed it. I thought that's what part of the story. I was like, I figured it out. No, I didn't.
You kind of did. I
I
mean,
didn't figure anything out.
I don't know, Christian. I think you had it wonderfully. When you kneeled down to pray, and you even asked the townspeople in that last session for like, what are they doing? Are they talking to Zariel? Like in my mind, I was just like, can you just attack already? But
Yeah, that's what I remember. We were all dying to some demon, and he was just sitting there at a statue.
No, but you humbled me, and honestly, this is one of the things I really learned about playing with this many people is I've been humbled quite often, where it's like, no, I feel like that was the right choice. Like Bob, it felt like Zariel came down because of Christian's decision to not attack and to like kneel and pray.
Honestly, I didn't know what to do on that at that final turn. I think I let Hex go before me because I was just totally lost. I was like, I have no idea where to move, where to go. Like every sort of in my head, I went through all my moves and just nothing seemed to work. And
whatever you did that was the right choice.
I felt desperate at that point.
it's one of those things where like story-wise, it just really worked out. Zariel was supposed to come in at that time, but he literally right before it happened, he kneeled down and prayed, and it was just like coincidence, but just a really good coincidence.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Yeah. So I really love the way that Caddis's ending came. You're a totally changed person. You're really a shell of Caddis, but I think if this character were to go on into the future and play more, it would be a completely different outlook on the character. Completely different.
I really liked how that went, and I feel like the character finished really strong in that final battle.
Yeah.
Which,
so 7
I
out of
never
7.
got a single attack off, by the way. I
know,
realized
you
that
got
like
pummeled.
2 hours later, not a single attack was. I rolled that entire
went
final
in there,
battle.
You went in there guns blazing, and then you got pummeled, and you woke up, and did I mention we talked about this at work or something, right?
Yep.
So I was thinking in my mind cinematically, when Caddis goes down, the first thing Caddis would see when Caddis's eyes open would have been Zariel also on the floor right next to him. They were lying side by side. And the chaos of the battle swirling around and just all the stuff, like explosions and missiles and spells being cast. It would have been so like cinematic to see like, the sound muffled. Caddis opens his eyes, looks over, sees Zariel, sees the humanity in her, and offers to pick her up, right? So it's... and one thing I didn't even do, because, again, similar to Kolgath, it was so convincing that you were going to betray everybody. This was so convincing that you're giving the sword back to redeem her. I didn't even have you make a roll. Like, you're supposed to make a roll for that in the game, and you failed it the first time, or you rolled a 20. Yep. You failed it the first time, because it's a 25 DC. And I was just like, it has to be this way. I didn't even think about it in my mind. I was just like, you got it. You give her the sword back. Once she grabs the sword, it's done. And it made perfect sense, and I really, really liked that scene. So that was great. Really great job. And
thank you.
Last but not least, we've got Dobby. Dobby. Follow up the. Let's follow up Caddis with Dobby. Dobby, you're dead. You died in the second session of this campaign.
Yeah, pretty early on too.
Yeah. I know you're used to like in Warhammer, you could lose any game anytime, right? It's just the way the dice work. But in D&D, I think you felt like there was more permanence to your character. I don't know.
Yeah, I felt more vulnerable, I guess, especially after the incident.
Yeah. So how did Dobby make his second chance at life more relevant than the first?
I felt like I played it a lot more, I don't know, like withdrawn, I guess. You had Dasha over here sacrificing her soul and stuff, always willing to do whatever needs to be done. Nate was always in the front, ready to talk somebody off a cliff. Kolgath, of course, always charging in. I never really I don't know, I guess my character never really took initiative after dying like that to really take charge of any situation. He was always more of like support the team from the background kind of thing. He stayed quiet to himself as a necromancer usually would. And I think his primary mission was to just strengthen his magic, talking to every wizard he found, looking at every spellbook he found.
I did always feel like Dobby was very he was very opportunistic. Like he was trying to
I mean, he had a demigod fighting next to him, blasting people away. He had an archer who just shot people's heads off. Kolgath wielding his 10 legendary items, So he was just trying to keep up with the pack.
Only 9.
It's true. It's true.
It's the leader of hell over here, just blasting people away.
Yeah.
Here for it.
Yeah. The Dobby was a very good character for the group, though. Not only did you fix the vehicle all the time, the Falcon, you were the pilot. You did a lot of
that was fun.
You were a lot of utility for the group. You did a lot for the group. I think without you, every encounter would have been a lot harder. You always came up with something very clever, a spell here or there, and it always ended up being well placed.
I spent a lot of hours reading through that spell list. There's everything was immune to everything, so it was hard to find spells that worked.
That's true, and that's one thing. Being a wizard is selecting your spells is really like a part of playing the class is selecting your spells carefully, which I think would probably be hard for a first-time player. So let's transition a little bit to discuss more broadly. You were all 6 of the 8 of you, so Tim and Stefano had played before, but everybody else is new player. This is the first time you've played D&D properly. I think maybe some of you had maybe one experience or something in the past, but this was like the first time playing for most of you. What was it like playing as a new player in this campaign? What do you think some of the benefits of being new were?
The unknown, I guess.
Yeah. I think
I
we're
get-
all gonna look back and be like, man, I wish I could play D&D for
Yeah.
the first time again. Like, it's just that sense of not knowing what you can and cannot do, and kind of just go almost winging it sometimes.
Sometimes you wish
Sure.
you could like play your favorite video game again, or watch your favorite movie again, and I really really enjoy D&D. So yeah, I feel like I'm gonna have that. Man, I
And-
wish I could try that over. Just
Yeah.
not knowing.
And I'm sure Weir feels the same though as a spellcaster, not knowing any of the spells until you reach that level and then having to look at them. And then seeing them in action sometimes. Like I saw Stefano cast a couple spells. I'm like, what the hell? Did I miss that spell? Where is it? I'm taking that next level.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's funny. The spellcasters are challenging. I think for a new player, unless you're really really open to like learning a lot, the spellcasters are probably the harder class to play. Pete, Eroviel, and really Kolgath. I know those classes, the paladin and the ranger, are so like a quarter caster. The rogue, you did not take a spellcasting rogue, so really the three of you had the least amount of spells. What was your focus on when you were playing?
I think for me, sometimes maybe because it was my first time, there were moments towards the beginning of playing where I felt like maybe I was too cautious in making my character. I made her personality like kind of similar to my own in real life. I kind of chose what I thought would be like the most easy to figure out like in game as I'm playing for the first time. And sometimes I was like, oh, she's kind of like a one-trick pony. Like all she does is shoot people. But as I went on, I felt like because I wasn't so focused on like figuring out what spell I'm casting, it was like Hunter's Mark and pretty much that's it. I could develop the character more. I could focus on like her motivations and her thoughts and feelings and what's making her make decisions. And then when you do get to higher levels, some pretty badass like bow and arrow like stats where I could do a lot of damage in one turn.
Blowing people's heads off.
Yeah, it ended up paying off, and I'm really glad I went with this kind of a character build.
You did do a lot of damage.
Ariel? Am I correct?
Yeah, I just
Yikes. What a superlative.
Well, she did not have a soul at the time, so can't blame her.
Still don't.
It's
Pete,
okay,
the rogue.
Pete still believes in you.
There you go.
Thank you.
You always have one. Pete, the rogue is a very interesting class. You chose the non-spellcaster versions of the rogue, which is totally fine. But they do have like a lot of rules. There's a lot of like little rules you get every level. And how was that as a new player, getting so many different rules, class abilities?
Honestly, I really enjoyed having a lot of different options. I like that the rogue has such a huge branching flowchart of possibilities. So the way that character is developed really depends on the player and their preferential play style. So I really like that flexibility available to the rogue. I personally went with no spells and mostly just kind of like attack damage, because typically I tend to enjoy characters like in other video games. I enjoy characters who have a lot of mobility, and I really enjoy kind of in a battle being able to zip in and out.
And now you did, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, like you said, the rogue has tons of rules in terms of gameplay mechanics, and I feel like I didn't really get a good grasp of that aspect and like the actual like turn sequence and like when I can use a bonus action and like which roles are relevant when. Like I didn't really start picking up on that until like pretty late in the campaign, which I now regret, because had I known like all of those mechanics and that from the very beginning, I feel like I could have done a lot more in terms of just like battles. But otherwise,
I hear you.
Yeah, I thought the rogue was really cool. Yeah, and I think it's a very flexible character, and I would love to play another rogue in a future campaign, but like a completely different version of a rogue.
Yeah, you definitely could. Yeah, the rogue is kind of versatile like that. You could play something totally different, spellcaster even rogue. Yeah, I think that a lot of new players probably feel that way. Like looking back wish they had known this at the beginning. But then you wouldn't be a new player and you wouldn't have learned. So, yeah. And we're not even talking about Kolgath because all you did was smite people. You didn't have spells and anything like that. So,
Well, if I could just talk about character development, I don't know if we're doing it now, but it felt like a good time.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
My
kidding.
character, to be honest, was essentially just originally my paladin that I played in World of Warcraft back in 04 to 06, and that's what that
the
was
good
my
old days.
paladin. Yeah. And as I started, I gave him a bit of a different backstory, and I had no idea what to expect from this game. But really loved the ability to kind of go at it my own. I mean, learning from my other players, and you guys were doing really interesting and fun things. I mean, I saw Pete and Dasha particularly, or Michelle and Dasha particularly do different and interesting character building, and I was like, oh, this is not a video game. I can develop my character, and it really helped me do that. It was really fun.
Can I say the one thing that we're all really happy about is Kolgath's voice developing throughout the entire.
Kind of went in and out.
I really don't understand how much I should be doing the Scottish accent the whole time. It got to be a little bit tedious after 6-hour sessions in a row, and my throat started to hurt a whole hell of a lot. So, to be perfectly honest, I done messed up. It's
hard when you commit to the voice, it's because you got to commit, and it's hard. I gotta be honest. I usually don't, when I play, I usually don't do a real voice unless it's something I feel totally comfortable with. I once tried to play a half orc where I was doing an Australian accent, and it is so hard. It's really hard to do an accent. It's not easy. It takes practice. Why there are voice actors and why they're so good at doing these things, because it's their job. But yeah, I appreciated the effort, John. It was good.
It was a mistake, but thank you for the.
It was good. So let's switch it up a little bit. Let's talk about some things that you never faced, things that you did not choose to do in the campaign. You did, at the beginning of the Avernus section of the campaign, you decided to, once you talked to Mad Maggie, go to see Mordenkainen. But you did not go to the Mirror of Mephistar, which I know some of you were split on. You kind of wanted to go there. And you did not go to the Bone Brambles to talk to Maggie's cousin, Red Ruth. Those storylines, and honestly, the way that the structure of this campaign is done is there are so many things in Avernus. I don't think it's, one, plausible to do it all, and two, good for the game to go through everything. So I had you basically pick decisions that you'd go in this direction or the other. Could you go back to them and done things with them? Sure, but I think once you made a decision, the group was all committed to it, and we never went back. But Maggie's cousin, Red Ruth, was crazy. She basically has a tunnel that she lives in that is covered with human flesh and body parts. It would have been a really cool encounter with her. She's kind of crazy, kind of like Mad Maggie, but not as nice either. She would have been cool. And there's also druid ghosts that live in the brambles there, and they would have attacked you, and they would have been a pain in the butt. But she would have led you to similar. It was kind of like Mordenkainen. Once you got to him, he basically gave you a quest of his own to go on. And once you did a couple things for him, he helped you out and moved the story along. That would have been similar. The Mirror of Mephistar, I forget which level of hell Mephistar is another devil, arch devil or whatever. But I had basically planned to tie that into Tim's character with Levistus, kind of the other devil archdevils conspiring against Zariel. So that would have been more of a Tim-focused place. But yeah, so those were the two other paths you didn't choose. Was there anything you had questions about that you don't think we covered, or storylines that we never explored that you were confused about?
Vampers? I felt like there was something we missed with the weird sun, and I mean, we didn't clearly enter the house the way
I think we showed up when one of their bodies were dead.
One son we let die. Yes, he was in the sewers, and we left him and came back, and he died.
Wasn't there one in a sewer or something that we just?
So
found his dead body?
there are three Vamper sons. For the first one that you would have encountered in the storyline as it's supposed to be is Mortlock, which you found dead in the bathhouse, under the bathhouse. When Dobby died, you all decided to leave, retreat, take his body with you, right? There was a lot more of that dungeon that you didn't explore, and if you had done it that night, you would have saved Mortlock, and Mortlock would have been a Van Thamper ally, really, because he hates his parents, he hates his mother. So you would have had an in with the Van Thampers, and you going to their mansion would have been much easier because you would have coordinated with him, and you would have had somebody who could grant you access to things, and there would have been a little more exploration with the Van Thampers in general if you had him as an ally. But he died because you weren't there to save him. So,
yeah, but he was still Cult of the Dead 3. He was like a
no,
cult leader.
he was not.
He was down there to fight them, and we just
He
kinda
was
left him
down there to
for
fight
the-
Yep. He
Okay.
was going to go and
Ah.
confront whoever he found out about what was going on and was going to blow up the plan. So he would have been an ally to you all, but he died. He was the only good, semi-good Van Thamper. Then Amric is the shady one you met at the Low Lantern, the boat. You had the
one.
devils working with him. Nothing really came of that one, although he could have came back at some point if you wanted to make deals with him, but I think you mostly wanted to kill him. That's why he was scared, so he ran away. And then the younger son, the one that killed himself on the balcony.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, so he was tinkering with the puzzle cube. He could have helped you learn more about the puzzle cube had that encounter with the Van Thampers gone a little more. You had used a little more persuasion and stealth as opposed to just more fighting, but he was kind of like going crazy from playing with the cube.
Yeah. While we're talking about the cube, well, you made it very obvious at that point. I know, unfortunately, we weren't on YouTube, where we weren't streaming, but you made it at that point that we kind of were ready to leave. We were getting our butts kicked. Things were happening. The guards were coming up the stairs. What would have happened if we just left there and we didn't get the cube? We would have to go back.
That's one of the things is that the game does give you some options to, like the cube itself reveals Thavius Krieg's deal that he made with Zariel. Even if you don't have that, it's not impossible for you to find out that the deal was made. And if you went to Candlekeep like normal, even if you didn't have the cube, you still could have gotten all the information from Silvira, the tiefling warlock that was really close friends with Hex. Well, Hex would like that, but
was looking for new friends.
Yeah. Basically, you could have even without knowing the deal Thavius Krieg had, know that a deal was made by somebody and you wouldn't have known that it was Thavius Krieg, but basically that's it.
Your DMing to me came in really well there. It felt so imminent, like that I just felt like I had no choice but to find this cube, regardless of the huge danger coming towards us. So that was really fun for me. Kolgoth developed a lot there, just going around and smashing everything to try to find that cube.
Yeah, and once you found the cube that moved the story along, you went to Candlekeep, and then you went to Avernus. Any other things that you were confused about, things that we didn't touch on at the end?
I have a question about, this like alternate universe type situation, but when we were by the scab, if we didn't surrender and we finished that fight, how would things have changed? Would Bella start coming after us?
Oh yeah, so I forget who I was talking to about this, but remember when you all were on the banks of the river and you think you found the scab, you were looking, I think Dobby went out with Kolgath on the horse and you were looking for the scab opening or where the scab was, and you kind of used detect magic. You were like, it's somewhere over here. I totally thought you were going to push on and kill those devils and go to the scab yourself. I didn't realize you would all quit and give up. I know that I said that the devils said surrender, but I also said that because the devils probably thought they were going to lose. So they wanted to be like, see if you would just listen to them. I don't know.
Didn't you also have them summon more devils, and we didn't know that was they had a limited capability to do that?
That's what it was. That's what it was. I almost meted myself out of trying, or I meted you into metaing yourselves out of a combat because I thought that people know that, like, you know, there's limits on these abilities. I guess when you're the
Wanted to
DM, you
play.
see things differently, but you know,
No.
I guess I could make up whatever I want. I could just say 100 devils show up. I guess I could just say that. I
Yeah.
didn't,
Right.
but I was
But
thinking
yeah,
within the
if
parameters of the
100
rules.
showed up,
Yeah.
I would have been like, okay, all right, I gotcha.
Yeah.
As a
You know,
new
from
player,
my
it felt like
perspective-
I was being nudged away from completing the battle. I felt like, all right, we know the end is near. Do we want like one or two or maybe even three of us to die in like a never-ending devil battle right now?
Not again.
Interesting. That's interesting. I was not thinking that way at all. I know that the horned devil can summon one other one. I knew that all the devils can summon one more of their kind, basically, the more powerful ones. So, really, I had summoned all the things that could have been summoned at that moment. Like, they all got summoned, and that was you could tell exactly who you had to beat at that point. That's what I was thinking. So I was just making it more challenging for you guys to fight them, whereas you guys were like, oh, this is Bob telling me to just end this because I want you to go see Belle. If you didn't go see Belle, it would have been fine because Belle would have been there still at the end. It still would have happened the same way. I did not mean to railroad you if you thought that's what was going on. I just thought you were going to run those devils over. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should have, but there were two. At least for me, there were two meta pieces. There was the meta about him getting a character, like summoning more, and also the fact that you told us to conserve spell slots. So I'm not gonna lie; those two things affected my decision making there.
I did have this battle attempt to make you use spell slots, which I was hoping would wear you even more down. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, if we hadn't gone to see Belle, would Gargoth have been released from the shield?
No, not at that moment. Although I was thinking that he could still be released in the final battle.
That would have been awkward.
So
So awkward.
it ended up, because at that point, I think
Yeah.
I don't think John. Well, maybe John would have still had the deal with Kolgath, with Gargoth, but a Gargoth would have like came out and just started smashing. Like he would have just right away started fighting.
Because I made
actually-
a deal with Gargoth in Belle's Forge.
Yeah, I prefer the way it ended. Honestly, I prefer
Was
the way
Bell
it
the
ended.
only one that
Yeah.
could release Gargoth?
Any Archduke or Pit Fiend level character can do it automatically. A spellcaster can attempt to do it, and I think it depends on what level you can cast some spell at, or I forget. I had to look. I always was remembering that none of us could do it, but if you had like tried to get someone to do it, there was a % chance that it would fail, and I think it was like very small, like a 1% chance for like almost everybody else.
Well,
So yeah, so I
Mordenkainen was lying.
what did he tell you? I forget.
I asked him if he could release the shield or if he can banish it, and he said he cannot like destroy the person. He can just put it away. And I feel like he like dodged the question about whether or not you can release it.
So
Because,
he
like,
did not want to release him.
Right.
You wanted him to destroy the shield. Somebody said, "Can you destroy it or something?" He could not destroy it. He could release him, but why would he want to do that? So yeah, what's that?
He wanted to put him in another plane, basically.
Yeah.
No, I figured out which way to point to Weird. But I'm sorry, I just wanted to remind Dasha, I think you had a question from before about things you wanted to know about the campaign.
Yes, I do. I had a question. So at the beginning of this campaign, we all like had our big secret that united us, which was that we had accidentally killed someone in some mission we did, and that person, Lance, whatever we called him, came back as like a devil at one point when we were fighting Archon, like at the end when Zariel showed up. But then I feel like we got rid of him really easily. Was that meant to be that easy, or did we do something strange? Because I feel like he kind of popped up and then he was dead.
No, that was kind of just like my on the fly decision that I actually regretted after I did that. I was like, because I had him be like an informant for Zariel. Basically, if you die and you're a terrible person, and you could go to Avernus and become like a Lemure or whatever, and you could rise through the ranks like every other devil. So I figured by the time you had all gone down there, he had risen to like the level of an imp. Nothing too powerful, but he's kind of like a snitch. He was like a bratty kid. He was like a rich, wealthy kid or something like that we had described him and we were making our secret. Problem is the secret did not come up in the story like at all. It was like gives you this whole thing in session 0 to tell you like make this character secret or this group secret that will come into play later, and gives you like no, I didn't read the whole book at that point. I had read the introduction to every chapter. I had looked through the book, but I didn't read the book. I didn't read it in entirety. So as we're going through, I'm like, there's nothing about this secret. So I was like, I had to decide something. So I came up with that idea that he's like an informant. He was telling her because he hates you, so he was informing her about weird whereabouts, telling Zariel these rumors. She was almost hesitant to believe him, and so when she didn't see Lulu, because the thing that would have grabbed her is that there's Lulu, and she thought Lulu was dead. When Lulu wasn't with you, which I was so surprised she didn't come with you, because when we looked at the teleport spell, it really was you could only do 8 people, so you couldn't bring Lulu. So we ended up keeping Lulu at Mordenkainen's, and so at this moment when I expected Lulu would be there, she'd have this big revelation. She wasn't there, so she was kind of pissed at him, and she just like annihilated him with her immolating gaze. But I was like, I should have kept him. I killed him too early. But
I thought he was going to come back in the final battle.
How many more characters could I have brought back into the finale? I don't know. It would have been just crazy. All right, so last couple of things I want to talk about is some NPCs. We had some really great NPCs this campaign. The 3 that I'm going to talk about, let's talk about Lulu, Rhea, and Max. So let's talk about Lulu first. I think we all love Lulu universally, right? Was she our favorite NPC?
What an all-star NPC.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
She was
Loved
goofy.
Lulu.
Yeah, I mean, I think she was fun to play, role play, and the idea that she had like no memory of things, but slowly getting them back was like cool. And she's that navigator in Avernus for the group. Like she doesn't know where to go, but she gives you some vague clues. Was there anything you felt like Lulu? I don't know, maybe my DMing or something. Because I always felt like with NPCs, I always forget them, especially in combat. I know it was like my biggest thing. I would never use Lulu in combat just because there's so many of you, and I always forget. But
I had one question. When we were in the catacombs, Lulu's eyes kind of became like possessed for a moment and said something in a different voice. Was that Lulu's like human form basically coming out and giving us a message? I couldn't remember exactly what the message was.
I don't think she had a human form.
Yeah, she doesn't have a human. She can go into the mammoth.
But I think she was just a big.
I didn't realize that
mammoth.
Never changed. But do you remember that like possession? And then she was like, "Go, you need to go, and I need to stay here and protect the people," or something like that. I forgot what it was.
I don't remember this.
I remember that.
It was good. I wrote that down all over the place. I underlined it. I was like, "Oh, what's going on with Lulu?"
That's the thing that made me think she was a human that was transformed.
Stephanie,
Wow, I don't remember this.
What session that was?
I don't.
Oh, never mind.
She was awesome though.
It's
very bubbly, very sweet.
It was
yeah. I feel like how could you not like
Alder Ravengard?
Bubbly is a good way to describe her.
Yeah,
like it.
I thought we all like really loved Lulu, which is why in the final battle I was kind of surprised how everyone was doing their different things and not even taking a moment to look at Lulu. I thought we trusted her this entire way, and then poor Lulu's trying to save Zariel, and everyone's just attacking Zariel. Like, it's like almost like, okay, Lulu, we're not friends anymore. We don't care what you think.
Not everyone was attacking Zariel.
Yeah.
I was
had your back, Caddis.
I know. I was just really surprised. I was really surprised how everyone in that final battle started doing their own thing, and like, no, not as many people. I thought Lulu was supposed to be our like, we need to be following Lulu's lead here.
She's like the moral
compass. Because you pulled the sword, I was like, I'm not going to be able to convince Zariel. He's got the sword. He's got it. And I was like, I'm just going to keep killing bad guys, but I'm not going to attack Zariel.
That's a good point.
It was interesting.
I think Barovia went a little bit like trigger happy when she like walked in there and was like, okay, let's choose Zariel. And she was maybe a little bit too far mentally and emotionally gone at that point to think rationally about Lulu.
I'm so happy that you all like Lulu as an NPC because when I ran, some games have these NPCs that are like very important to the story. Curse of Strahd had basically the female Irina, the female love interest to Strahd, the one that's supposed to be like from Dracula books or whatever. And my characters in that campaign, for some reason, just hated her. I don't know, maybe it was the way I role played her. I don't remember, but I was like, guys, you're supposed to like Irina, and they just hated her, and they wouldn't have minded if she died. So I was like, I have to make Lulu very likable. I would be heartbroken if people were like, "Oh, f that elephant." Like, no, nobody cares.
That
Oh,
elephant was a godsend.
That would have been
It
yeah, it
was
would have been terrible.
amazing.
Anyway, okay, so then let's talk about one that I don't think people liked as much, but I think maybe this is my fault, but Rhea. I thought Rhea was a great character. She's like that like kind of young upstart kid who wants to prove herself. She wasn't that capable of a warrior, but I think she would do whatever it takes to, you know, become a Hell Rider, that sort of thing. So I wanted her to be like a plucky young warrior. What do you guys think of Rhea?
I thought that came off pretty clear.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, she's plucky.
Rhea also gave us the information on the rumors of the Hell Riders that was important throughout kind of the entire campaign.
That's true, yeah. You know, Rhea could have came with you in Avernus. I could have had her come with, like, I don't know, I just felt like with Lulu and so many characters, I was like, let's just have Rhea stay with the group. And I don't know, it was nice to see her again at the end, but it would have been hectic to have two major NPCs with you.
Bob, did you ever think about having Rhea like sacrifice herself in some cool way?
I did, but when older Ravengard died so very quickly I felt bad for older Ravengard, okay?
Yeah, was that supposed to happen?
No, I mean, I had all
No?
intentions
Get
of
hit by lightning or something?
Yes, I had all intentions of Zariel attacking him. Right, that was going to be my first play. Was she's going to attack him and make him be like an injured character? You all have to decide if you're going to attack or like go help him, that sort of thing. But then lightning hit him by random chance. I had a D20 roll 1 through 20, and there's 20 characters in the game. And I rolled his number, and I was like, "Oh God, he got hit by lightning, and debris fell on him. He's dead." So it all happened so quickly. I was like, I don't want Rhea to die senselessly like older Ravengard. So I figured I would not necessarily attack her at that point. Maybe I should have, though. Maybe I should have had Rhea be the one to get hit first.
Bob,
I
speaking
think
of
she
the
was
lightning,
kind of like predictably bland and good, and if she
Yeah.
had like sacrificed herself, it would have been
Yeah,
cool.
maybe I could
I
have
would
done
have been
that
more
with her
inclined
in
to
the
protect
end.
Rhea than probably any other NPC. Don't know why.
Hmm.
She just struck a chord with me.
Okay.
Bob, speaking of the lightning, I saw in your DM prep where the lightning would strike, and we never entered that area. Was that infuriating to you?
Oh no.
You're right. It was going to be the open area, right? So because the
Yeah,
lightning
right
would
by
come
the
through the
altar.
area.
Never
And-
went there.
No, but I started older Ravengard in there. So he died. So he's
Bob,
dead.
I'm kind of curious how how much prep did you do for situations where there was supposed to be like a giant scene and then we just completely circumnavigated it? Like I remember there was that one bridge with those
The
bad
bridge,
guys
the
and like
infamous
it was
bridge.
a huge thing and we were gonna have a big fight and then we literally just flew across the chasm and we are like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, it's I gotta say, honestly, excluding that scenario where you flew across the bridge or flew across the chasm instead of going the bridge area, none of you didn't like do that many crazy things where it like drastically messed with an encounter of mine. I kind of, at the end of every game, I would always be like, so just be clear, this is what you're doing next, right? You were going to this location just so that I could get some handle on the prep so that way it wouldn't be like such a shot in the dark. But yeah, like that scene, for example, I spent about like 45 minutes getting the lines because we weren't playing on Roll20 at that time. We were playing in person. And I drew like the lines on everything. I was like really making this a beautiful bridge. I drew the runes on the bridge. It was a masterpiece. And then I had that one rolled up with the other mats. And I was like about to bring it out. And you were like, why don't we just go down here and fly over? And I was like, putting the map away slowly.
One sad tear.
Didn't just kill me inside that you skipped this beautiful drawing of mine, but no, it wasn't that bad. And then the last Max, I think we talked about him a little bit, so I guess we don't.
Can I just say something about Rhea? Because I'm very passionate about Rhea's character. Yeah. I felt like Rhea's character was the most annoying NPC that we dealt with because I didn't understand what her reason for being was for the entire second half of the campaign.
She was pretty useless.
I'm kind of
She
with
wasn't.
Weird, and I didn't think about it until this moment, but like if Rhea died as soon as we got into El Terrell, or if she died when we met to like save Alder Ravengard, maybe that would give me more motivation. But I just felt like, all right, so Rhea is the person who holds your hand in the first part of the campaign, and then Lulu holds your hand in the second part of the campaign. I don't know. It's probably the book's problem, but it felt really disjointed, and I didn't feel like Rhea's character arc like climaxed or like had a full arc. I felt like I wanted more from Rhea as John.
Yeah,
Cole didn't really give a shit, but
I agree. Lulu had a great arc, and Rhea had a, all right, well, here's where we leave you, sort of thing. In the book, it was the way it was written. I probably could have done something a little better with in terms of like making her either a sacrifice meaningful or do something meaningful at the end. I just kind of ran out of ideas, and there was so much going on in that finale. So I feel like that was probably just my fault. I did like Rhea as a character. I feel like I could have done her a little more justice, but. And then last was Max, who we had kind of talked about already. I know it's good to have a villain that is kind of like friends with the group. I feel like you can't really do that with Zariel because it would just be like, well, she'd just squash you. So I picked Max to be that kind of villain character that's friends with you. Did anybody ever watch Supernatural?
Yeah,
Okay, so that's like one of my favorite shows of all time.
great
And
show.
it's ending very soon. They're finishing this season 15, which is the final season soon in October. But they had a character on the show forever named Crowley. Do you know what I'm talking about? Who was just so awesome because he was so like
Great
evil,
character.
but he was willing to ally with the heroes more often than not. And I wanted Max to be like kind of like that like devil on your shoulder sort of character. And I think based on your reactions, he was a thumbs up.
Big thumbs up.
I
Yeah, he was
surprisingly loved having him in the story. He gave me something to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
I,
whenever
I enjoyed hating him.
yeah,
Good.
whenever he popped up, I always felt like I didn't want anything to do with him. Like whenever he showed up, I just wanted to just walk away. Just not my problem.
So
That's
noble.
good.
in my personal life, like
I will
That's
say
good. I'm
that
glad
it
you had
made-
that same reaction.
It made Pete very, very sad when Max suddenly appeared out of nowhere and walked up to Iroviel, and they clearly had made another deal.
Yeah.
Pete was quietly heartbroken when that happened.
I think everybody was. You were on the barge sailing south, and everybody was just looking over, and they were like, "God, not
You know,
again."
Lucius was present for a lot of Aroviel's like bad moments.
Yes,
like-
you were.
They're trying to suggest don't hold the soul coins while you're on our vehicle so that you could get some reprieve, and it just got worse and worse, and then I just started feeling pity. And then after the alignment change, I was just like, wow, I don't know if I could like trust this person anymore.
Yeah.
So it was cool though. It was
Yeah.
such a great, like, you know, it's not just like I'm a good person. I'm gonna go through this and do it. It was awesome. I thought it was a great character change, and Max really added a ton to.
Yeah, he really egged it on. Yeah. All
I'm
right.
so surprised.
Great job, Bob.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for
Thank
sure.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So then, last thing here is there any final thoughts? Any burning questions you have? Something that you want to say? Because that's it. That's all I got.
In one of
The final battle.
battles-
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no problem.
wanna go?
Yeah, sure, thanks. In one of the final battles, we saw Van Thamper come back as like a demon form.
In the finale, yeah, she was a bone devil. Yeah.
Yes. Was her only purpose there just to die, or was there any other kind of interaction that we could have had with her? Because in that battle, Pete was primarily focused on keeping Van Thamper distracted and kind of away from the other people who were kind of like focused on other enemies. And so Pete was curious to see if they could start a conversation with Van Thamper. And so
Yeah.
he was, instead of like killing, Pete
I
was
remember.
just kind of like wrangling on the back of this bone devil and trying to like talk to it. So I was just curious afterwards, like, was there any other possibility for that character, or was it just there?
Yeah, so I had her come back as a Bone Devil. That's not necessarily something that was in the campaign. They do mention you could bring her back as like a pit fiend or something. My goal for having her there in that battle was because if you all decided to kill Zariel, and then Belle decided to turn on Zariel, and really none of you were want to redeem her, she would be probably too easy to kill. So I wanted to have some allies for her, in case.
Gotcha.
So had you all attacked Zariel, and then Belle turned on her, you probably could have convinced her to work with you if you were going to fight Belle. But for the most part, yeah, it would have been hard to do it. I don't remember exactly the order of when it happened when you do that role, but yeah, I basically she was just going to fight for Zariel the whole time. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks.
Andrew?
Yeah, I was just curious if there was supposed to be that many high-level monster guys there at the end, or if that was
So the ending in the
for-
book, and this is actually one of the last things I forgot I mentioned. I wanted to say in the book there is I think a really poorly done skill challenge, or in some ways skill challenge, to get to fight Zariel. It's like you kill some creatures to get to her. You meet her. It doesn't even say like where you fight her. It doesn't. It's just like in El Terrell, generic battle scene, and say that like there's just a swirling combat where she's fighting and she turns to you and you catch each other's eyes and you have a chance to make a persuasion check. That's like the whole finale in the book. I'm exaggerating. I don't have it in front of me, but that's really basically all it says. You make a couple of skill checks, you find her, you make the persuasion check, and then you either fight to the death or you run away or make a deal with her. And I was like, that's really boring. There's also 8 of you, so like, is it just going to be you're fighting her? There's other devils around. So I had the scenario where you go to the High Hall because that seems like the best place to fight her. It's where she would be going, leading her forces. I also decided not to have demons as part of this. They had demons attack in the book. There'd be like more demons attack, but I was like, they just cleared the demons out. Now they're going back. Now there's more demons. The only way that I would have had demons in it is if you decided to go to the cemetery and talk to Gideon. If you would open a demon portal to like get reinforcements as like allies to like divert the devils, that would have been my thought as to how you would have had demons like fighting devils in the final battle. And I would have had Baphomet come in to also fight in that final battle.
Wow.
So the demon lord of the Minotaur.
Epic.
That was my only other thing that I was thinking about that. But you guys were like, let's teleport right to the High Hall. And then I was like, I had a big skill challenge to get you across El Terrell. and I was like, maybe I'll just have CJ when he brings you to when Archon brings you to El Terrell, you're just going to miss the mark. You'll be somewhere else. But then everybody was like, yeah, the teleport spell, if you can describe it. And you were like, oh, remember Weir, the song you played? And everybody's getting really into like describing the area. And I was like, there's so many cool things you're all remembering. And I was like, am I really going to be a jerk and be like, well, you described it really well, but you land in the cemetery or you land in like the outskirts on a chain, like, I was like, forget it. No skill challenge. You're just
Wasn't
right
there an
there.
ability that really put it over the edge? I think maybe Hex had it
I had a foresight ability to show him.
that actually
Sure
let
did.
him see where we
Yeah.
wanted to go. Yeah.
Exactly. So you described it so well. He gave him foresight, and I was like, all right, you can just land in the High Hall, and that's where the big combat is. I had a whole thing. If you watch my video in the prep, I had a whole scenario for you getting from, X in El Terrell to the High Hall. You had skill challenges, survival checks, perception checks, falling things, fighting creatures. You would have taken damage round to round to like lower your like you could have expended spells and abilities to like buff up your rolls. It would have been like, so you came into it like a little wounded and a little down on spells and abilities, and you came in fully powered and had no problem landing where you needed to land. So I just scrapped it all. I couldn't make you be like, I still need to give me these checks, and it felt weird. So that was the big change. I had this idea from months ago. In fact, I was in the car with Diana talking about how there's so many possibilities for this ending, and she was like, and I was like, I'm gonna put in this demon lord. I'm gonna put in this other dude whose name's Bell, who's like gonna backstab this person. I had this whole thing in like May or June. I was like, this is all gonna happen in this final battle. I'm gonna bring, and as it got longer, closer to the, I was like, this person's showing up. This person's showing up. This is gonna be like a huge finale. I was like, yeah,
You get
we're
a
gonna
demon
have,
lord.
yeah,
You get a demon lord.
yes.
Everyone gets their own personal archduke to fight.
And I was like, yeah, Gargoth's going to be there. I don't care if, whatever. He's going to be in there. Max is going to be there. Older Ravensguard's going to be there. Rhea's coming back. I was like, everyone's coming back. This is like the Seinfeld finale. Everyone is coming back. And yeah, it got a little out of hand. So then I kind of scale it back in my DM prep video. I kind of made it so it's a little more manageable. But yeah, I had planned that all out myself. I went very far away from what the book had suggested to do. In fact, I watched a stream. I won't say what stream it was, but I watched a stream where a group ended it just to see how other people did it, because I had such crazy ideas. And I was like, it's kind of underwhelming. I was like, it's such a grand adventure. It needs to end on a bang. So I think it did.
I really liked how in the final battle you kind of like brought in all these characters where everybody found somebody who they had a personal vendetta against.
That's
like,
what I wanted. Yes,
yeah,
I wanted everybody to have their
just
personal
locked
person
eyes
that
with
they.
Max, and like he couldn't see anyone else, and I thought that was cool. Sorry, go for it. Yeah.
No. My only question really, did Max die?
Well,
That's all that matters.
I think we'll have to leave that for our sequel when we come back to Avernus to find out if he's alive.
That
or
is
not.
like the most unsatisfying moment.
I had one more quick
A
question.
true tragedy. Okay, sorry, I'm good.
What level do you need to actually be to cast Foresight, the spell that Hex used?
It's a 9th level spell.
20th level you need to be.
So he used that 20th level spell before we even got to that final battle, and none of us realized?
Yeah, I used it on Dasha.
I realized.
Yeah, I realized.
Colga.
You all knew it was a 20th level spell, and nobody
By the
He
way,
spelled
also
it?
healed
I
for
didn't.
like over 100 hit points at one point, and I was like, all right.
Yeah, look
By
up
the way,
my
I don't
But
know
that
enough
was during the
warlocks
final
to
battle,
even-
though. That was during the final battle when Stefano did his thing, wasn't
That
it?
was Stefano's heal. Hex.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Hex
Stefan
Andrew-
was like 700. It was like, I take 40. I take 30. I was like, I'll take 100, please. Thank you.
before we
Andrew,
even got
I
to
really
that point, I
tried.
think Hex used Foresight.
I really tried, Andrew, to give I kept like
Yeah.
restating
it.
what he did and said like, wow, this incredible burst of power, and I kept trying
Well,
to
I didn't
get
know.
you. No, but
I
I
know
was
I
trying
didn't
to
know
get.
Foresight before.
I
There
was
was a
trying to get
moment
Dobby
in-
to cast it to do like an Arcana check, and then I would have said that's a 9th level spell.
I didn't think anything of it.
There was a moment in a previous episode where he cast Foresight, and John was like looking at a book, and he was like, "How did he just cast a 9th level spell at level 10?" It's in one of the episodes.
I gave up with the two of you having all these high levels. I play a wizard in another campaign, and all these things I dream about as like a lowly wizard, and they're like foresight, animate objects, just wave, and I'm like,
I didn't realize any of that.
It's those good Eldritch Invocations. I still have like 4 spell slots, and like my spell
Oh,
slots go up to
man.
level 5, but I get like 4 spells I get a one-time use that were just like dumb OP.
Yeah.
That's another perk of being a new player, I guess.
Yeah, I was with you, Dobby. Andrew, I didn't know
It's
anything.
right
I was
over
like,
his
well,
head.
I don't know enough about warlocks to.
Yeah. Oh,
To question
Foresight?
this.
He knows where we're going. Cool. Sounds normal.
I can do cool stuff too.
Well, everybody, it's getting about that hour, 10:30 here on the East Coast. I think we talked and we put a nice little cap on this campaign. It was actually nice to get to do this. I feel like in just playing regularly, I have almost never had like a formal sit down with players and chatted about the game. This was actually a lot of fun. So thank you.
You.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you, Bob.
That was a
Thank
lot
you.
of fun.
That was a pleasure.
And I do want to say thank you to the group for getting those dice for me. I think Dasha orchestrated the coordination of the dice, but I just got them in the mail the other day, and they're really cool. I'm going to give a shout out to Twice as Nice Dice. We got some, actually, I've been talking to the owner there. We're going to actually do something on the channel for Twice as Nice Dice. Oh, look at that. There they are.
Oh,
There they
yeah.
are. We're gonna
Sure is.
we're gonna get something going with Twice as Nice Dice in October. So stay tuned. We're gonna do some giveaways with those dice. So, but if you'd like to check them out, that's on Etsy, and I'll link that in the description as well when this is all over. So that's it for Avernus, everybody. Really, again, Stefano played in another campaign with me, and I said this then, and I'll say it now. I do feel like when you play D&D with people, you really get to know them, and it's been a blast getting to know all of you even more. I mean, most of us, except for Andrew, were coworkers, and I pretty much hated John until we played D&D together. So.
I mean, I met you my first time 15 years ago. Hated you then. Yeah, it's better now.
No, really though, it was a blast, and I thank you again. I had a lot of fun. So
it was a pleasure.
So much fun.
All right, everybody.
Bye.
Signing off. We'll see you all on Tabletop. Bye.
Hashtag kill Max.
No. I will find him at Avernus.
Just so everyone knows, in the epilogue, Caddis and we're rebuilding, and I'm helping out, just trying to raise spirits. I wrote Anything for Life. It's the story of Zariel. So it's a parody of Anything for Love. Caddis and Zariel are singing back and forth at each other. It's beautiful.
Now, what if I told
you? It was a little more successful than Warlock's Paradise. That's about Hex. Parody.
Now, what if I told you we stopped streaming?
Oh no, I know. I figured.
No, we're actually still streaming, so it's all good.
Right. I thought this was the post credit. Yeah, I thought this was for us.
Bye, everybody.
Post-credit scene like in the Marvel movies.
I was gonna say, and suddenly.
Alrighty. Well,
now we're gonna really say goodbye.
So we're tearing it up in the parody Bard world.
There we go. All right, everybody. Good night.